Hi guys, so in this video I wanted to do a bit of an update on the new fish that we received about a week and a half ago, and I also want to talk about a mistake which I've done in here, and because of this mistake I have nearly lost all of this new fish. So a bit of a background. If you have seen our previous video, and the link should be somewhere here, we have received a whole box of new fish: 5 redback Manakapuro angels, 7 Corydoras adolphoi, and 4 Chrobia shinguensis, a very rare dwarf cichlid. So I put them in this tank, and this was supposed to be quarantine tank for them because previously there was no fish in here, and my plan was to keep most of them in this tank afterwards. So I wanted to create here some sort of a natural biotop with lots of leaf litter on the bottom, driftwood, and this Brazilian Christmas moss. So what happened after I introduced all the fish? So they have all arrived healthy and in very good shape. You have seen the unboxing video. They were relatively, well, I would say very good quality fish when they have arrived. So what happened literally on the second day, 2 of the Manakapuro angels, they've stopped eating and they were standing somewhere closer to the surface and breathing heavily. So it did look very strangely. I was hoping that it's something digestive, so I was trying to deworm them. It didn't help, and a couple of days later they were dead. The same thing happened with 2 more Manakapuro angels. They were also breathing heavily, not eating, not moving much, just staying at the surface. You can see here pictures of the dead fish. So they have no bacterial infection. There's no signs of disease on their bodies, so they were absolutely clean. It didn't seem that there's something wrong with the gills, with their breathing, so they seemed absolutely normal on the surface. But the other 2 angels have also died within like the next 2 or 3 days, and one of the Chrobias had exactly the same symptoms, and it was also dead in a matter of 2 or 3 days. So all these fish had this clear poisoning symptoms, but I couldn't figure out what could have poisoned them in here. I checked the water parameters, everything: ammonia, nitrate, nitrite, even phosphate, and everything was perfect. Actually 0 ammonia and even 0 nitrate, which is quite unusual. But yeah, the water quality was just perfect, and I couldn't figure out what could be the reason behind all these losses. Until I finally realized that what potentially was the reason. So this is a piece of footage from the previous video, and you can see that we had quite a lot of leaf litter on the bottom of the fish tank. And actually, after I introduced the fish, I kept on adding more leaves in order to create more natural look, and my idea was to cover all of the bottom with leaf litter. I was using 2 types of leaves. The first one is this Indian almond Katapa leaves, and I usually order these leaves on eBay straight from Sri Lanka, and I've done it for years. I've ordered from the same supplier. They arrive in relatively good shape. Well, you can see they probably have a bit of cracks in here and there, and some of them are slightly eaten by the insects. But generally they're very clean and they're very good quality, and I've used these leaves for many years and they never caused any problems. I usually never boil them. I just add them straight to the fish tank. They will not sink immediately, but eventually they will get down on the bottom, and you can press them with driftwood or stones and they will stay on the bottom. They were great. But I've decided to add something else, and I've decided to kind of diversify my leaf litter bed in here. So a while ago I bought this mix of dried leaves on eBay. Well, they look like this. They're just a mix of all sorts of leaves, and I don't even know what kind of leaves are those, but they were sold for terrariums, for reptiles. They were not specifically sold for aquariums, but it was mentioned in the ad, in the eBay ad, that they're safe to use in aquariums and terrariums, but apparently they are not. And I guess that these leaves, they had some pesticides or some chemicals, some traces of chemicals on them. It was the reason behind the poisoning. So I promptly removed all of these leaves. I've left Catappa leaves because I know that they're safe, and I removed all other leaves, and I did a really huge, massive 90% water changes over 2 consecutive days, and everything seems to be fine now. So the rest of the fish are feeding well. They're a bit scared right now because they're not used to me sitting here and waving my arms, but they're feeding well. They are healthy, and nobody else has these symptoms of poisoning, and everything seems to be fine now. So yeah, the lessons that I learned is that you need to be really careful with what you add in your fish tank. The problem is that most of the leaf litter that is likely to be collected in urban areas in Europe and here in the UK is most likely to have some traces of pesticides or some other chemicals that are usually sprayed in parks, on trees, on plants, on the soil, just to deal with insects and so on. So anything that's collected in urban areas is likely to have these pesticides, and this is what's likely to happen with your fish if you add this leaf litter. Well, one way to do it is to boil your leaves, and I could probably boil these leaves, but I'm not going to do that because I don't feel safe with using these leaves anymore, and I'll just toss them away. But yeah, definitely one lesson to be learned is that if you're adding leaf litter into your fish tank, it's either you need to be 100% sure about their quality, about their origins, that they're from chemicals-free environment, they're from forested areas, somewhere outside of urban areas, outside of parks. Or you boil them thoroughly and you just keep them in this water for a while to let them leach all the tannins and leach all the bad stuff that they have in there, and you add them afterwards. So yeah, that's relatively sad. So I still have one Manakapura angel left, and 3 Crobias. Apparently one of them is male and 2 are females, which is good. And surprisingly, Corydoras were not affected by this poisoning at all. Actually, I would have expected them to suffer the most because they stay on the bottom and they were kind of always in this leaf litter, foraging for food and swimming around, but they're all healthy. They have actually grown a bit and they're feeling great. So yeah, it probably depends on how sensitive your fish is, and my Manakapura angels obviously were the most sensitive fish in this fish tank, so they've suffered the most. So this is just a bit of an update, and probably some of you will draw some useful lessons about using leaves or any sort of natural elements such as driftwood from the nature, directly from the nature in your fish tanks. So I'll see you in further videos very soon.